Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Harry Langdon, and the topic of today's session is going to be Jane Fonda. And Jane Fonda is a very complete woman who's done so many things in her life as an actress and as an entrepreneur and as a political spokesman, and she's a very controversial person. And she's one of those women who likes to be an achiever and stand out on the front lines. And right or wrong, she's going to speak her piece. And so the day came when she called me on the phone. My assistant said, "It's Jane Fonda on the phone." I thought, well, you're kidding, come on. And I said, no, it was Jane Fonda in person. And Jane is one of those women that likes to speak to the director, which I am, of the photo session, and speak to him in person and kind of get his vibe, his voice on the phone. And so she agreed to book the photo session, and I was really excited. So in about a week, the session was booked, and the day of the session came, probably about 8 o'clock in the morning. This is in the 80s, about mid-80s, and I thought, well, I'm going to go to the door myself to the studio. I had 5 employees, but I always like to greet my clients in person because they will get the first impression of what my studio is like from meeting me at the door. And I go out of the door with super enthusiasm and tons of confidence, because that's what these clients are looking for, is confidence in the photographer and the director. So this session was done at my Beverly Boulevard studio, and I have a staff of about 5 people, and we have hair and makeup all ready for Jane. And so I welcomed Jane in, and she came in with her own entourage. She had quite a few people with her who were helping her with her clothes and all that. And so Jane said, we're going to do exercise shots today. And I had been doing a lot of work for magazines that involved fitness, Shape magazine and Fitness magazine and Muscle and Fitness, etc. And so she thought I would be really good at capturing that kind of a vitality that it takes when you're an athlete or in exercise, and giving exercise advice. So we started shooting right away, and probably one of the first shots that we did was this shot here with her looking really trim and slim. Can you believe it? Her waist. And this hasn't been retouched, by the way. This is one of the first shots she did. It's kind of a glamour aerobics shot, glamour / aerobics. And so remember, all the time we're working, we have really good music playing with a heavy beat, because you know how in aerobics class there's always this beat going on behind. So we kept that mood of the whole studio. It's like one giant aerobics class. And so we continued on with that, and Jane, it was called her workout, Jane Fonda's workout. So this is her neat sweatshirt, and I thought she looked very dapper here. And so this is one of a whole series of shots that I did of Jane in one day, by the way. And derived from that day's session was one of her videos that she did. And I guess a lot of you may have gotten one of these videos and worked out to it and lost a lot of weight, and it got real fit from it. And you owe it to Jane. She was a perfect example of that kind of fitness. You know, she wasn't just advising, she was just being fit and doing everything that she gave people's advice to do. And she herself was extremely well built, let's say, and so these sessions were all shot with, by the way, with strobe light and on film. By the way, I used to shoot it with film in the 80s and beginning of the 90s, and this was not shot on digital, it was shot on film. and the colors are really vivid. They really held up really well over a period of time. And so she also worked out with weights. You know, she had really great upper arms and really trim her stomach. She had a great abs, just wonderfully, a wonderful example of what you could do with her exercises. Here's another really kind of explosive shot with her, just kind of jumps off the page. And so that was the object behind these sessions I did with her. I knew they were all destined to be in magazines and to be for her own videos and her own advertising. So it's up to me to capture these moments in time, which would, you know, which were at the peak of her vitality, just an explosive energy. This is just a pretty close-up taken. I was always fond of this one with her, just one of her favorite aerobics tops on. And so Jane's really a beautiful woman. These aren't retouched, by the way. This is just Jane and her all-natural self. It's just, she's a great example of what a woman can do if they stay really healthy. And I know to this day she's working on her health a great deal. And so Jane invited me, about 2 years later, Jane invited me to go up to her farm up in Santa Barbara in California. And this is out looking over the Pacific Ocean. And so this rock is on the end of a precipice in the mountain range, and it was kind of dangerous. It really was a dangerous spot, but it didn't matter to Jane. She, you know, it was all go, go, go with Jane. And so she, this is where she goes, by the way, to meditate and communicate with nature. And she's just was a real nature lover. In fact, this farm that she had, her farm home, was self-contained. They recycled all the water, the dishwater, the laundry water. They recycled everything, you know. And she even had a windmill in the backyard where she pumped her own water, and they had solar panels at that time. And so she had a self-contained place like that, and she was a total great example of a beautiful middle-aged woman that could really be an example of what a woman can do if they kept themselves in really good shape. And her personal life, too, was in good shape. Okay, and so she invited me back to where the chicken coops were, and this is one of her favorite bantam hens, and it was a charming shot to include in these shots, but it was Jane with one of her chickens. And so it was a nice experience that side of Jane and her personal life, where she got a chance to go to compose herself and get revitalized, because Jane was also an actress, is an actress and actor. And so the next session I booked was in the 90s, in the early 90s. And now we've got a different side to Jane. Now this is Jane as a businesswoman, entrepreneur, the kind of a tailored look of Jane. And she's also really beautiful here. This is only a few years after all the aerobic shots. And so I thought I really liked this shot, so I thought I'd include it in our session. And then also on this session, she had some romantic roles coming up, apparently. And so she wanted some shots that were looking a little bit sexier. This is Jane in a pretty blouse, kind of low cut. Such a departure for Jane to go into this kind of a role, you know, this beautiful, kind of alluring, kind of a sensual woman, which Jane really is in person. But she had apparently some roles coming up where she was to portray a woman of intrigue and romance, and it was kind of dramatic stories. So I thought this was a wonderful shot I picked out of my collection we did in that session of Jane being real alluring and kind of dark and somber and total contrast to all the bubbly vitality of her exercise videos. It shows that what a chameleon-like a woman Jane could be, where she could go all the way from the physical exercise and the organic farm and her chicken coops, all the way up to this kind of a beautiful, alluring woman, very sensual. So woman that was just a real example of what a woman can do, a broad range. And so I got a kick out of doing all of these shots, and that was one of the last sessions I did with Jane. And so I captured all these pictures, by the way, on film. You all know what, maybe you might not know what film is, but they're all captured on these slides or big transparencies. And so I had the chance to really save all of them, all of those images after I scanned them with the digital scanners, and I saved them all on a external hard drive. All those pictures, all these pictures are now digital, and they've been saved on magnetic hard drives. I advise all of you to try to save your slides on magnetic storage. So anyways, good to talk to you again. I hope you enjoyed meeting Jane and different facets of Jane Fonda. And so I look forward to the next one. Please give me a thumbs up, and and it'd be nice if you would subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Love you guys.